Hello YouTube, how are you guys doing today? I wanted to talk about base building and why I think it's so much more fun than people tend to believe. I was having a conversation with my friend who generally plays and likes these type of gacha games. He has played Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero in the past, so he has a fundamental understanding of how these games work. I was trying to explain to him how Arknights is a bit different because of how the combat works, and the fact that it has base building. From what he's seen online, he likes everything about the game except for the base building. Now, he's not the only one who shares the same sentiment. I've seen many people online complain about the same thing. They like everything about the game except for base building. They find it boring or that it feels like another job within the game, but as a person who has never played a base building game before, it's a lot more fun than I thought. With this video, I wanted to see if I can dispel the notion that it's overly complicated or that it's a boring job within a video game. Now, there are other base building games that are a lot more complicated, but Arknights is pretty simple. It's more of a mini game than anything else that relies on some creativity once you get a basic understanding of the mechanics. This video is for people who have never played Arknights Endfield or has never played a base building game, but is curious about it. Once you play the game, you will see that Arknights has a lot of simulation tutorials that you will need to go through. They can be a bit overly complicated because of all the technobabble used to explain the systems. This is why I wanted to make a simple video that teaches the basics. I'm level 16, which is still pretty early and haven't unlocked everything yet, but I get the gist of it. You've probably seen other YouTube videos or images of these huge factories and thought, this is not for me. Well, I'm here to tell you that it might actually be for you. Just try to keep an open mind. So what's the point of the factory? The whole point of this factory anyways is to build gear. Now normally you would just build gear by crafting it, by getting items off of mobs. But in this game, you use a factory to kind of do that, to automate this whole process. So let's go to our gear. So if we go to some gear here, you will see at the bottom that we're going to need 2 materials to build this or to craft this vest. The first is a valley stock build, and the second is the amist component. Now, we're going to be talking more about the amist component and how to build that, because that's what we're going to be using the factory to build. The stock build, you can just get that through the outpost. But for the amist component, we need to actually build that through the factory. And Arknights makes it easy by giving us a blueprint of that. So if we go to the blueprint here, the blueprint shows that we need 2 types of ore. We need the originin ore and the amist ore, right? So these ores go through a refining unit. And once it's refined, they get turned into this origo crust and this amist fiber. And once these are refined, they go through a gearing unit. And through the gearing unit, we get our component, our amist component. Again, so it's the ore, both of these ores go through the refining unit. The refining unit crafts 2 other materials, and then those materials go through the gearing unit, and then the gearing unit creates the component we need to craft the vest. Simple enough. So how does that look like in our factory? So basically, the ore gets put into the automation core, and I'm gonna show you how that gets done in a minute. But the ore gets put into the automation core and basically comes out on these 2 conveyor belts. They go into the refining units, as we talked about a little bit earlier, and then they get crafted into the material that we need to go into the gearing unit. If we go into the gearing unit, we can see the 2 items being crafted into the amist component that we need to craft our vest. And then the amist component goes back into the automation core. Right? So it's simple enough. I think this is the simplest way to explain it. So I'm going to try to go through these devices and how they work so that you can kind of get a better understanding of how this was built. So it first starts off with the automation core. The automation core is basically our power unit. It gives power to all the devices that's within it. And if you come over here and press triangle, it creates a power cable that can give power to devices outside of this square unit, right? It also houses a stash. So if I go into the stash here, you can see something called the Valley 4 Depot. So the Valley 4 Depot is the automation core stash. It houses all the materials that we get for us to be used or refined into other components, right? So how did we get the ore? So it all started off with the ore. How did we get the ore? So we got to go to the deposits, the ore deposits. And we have one over here. As you can see the image on it, you can see the origami crust or origo crust here. So if I hit one of these crystals, you can see we get the ore. But we don't want to be sitting here hitting all of these crystals every time we need ore and then physically bring it back to the automation core so it can be used, right? So what we use is we use an electric mining rig. And in the electric mining rig, it, you know, gets the ore and then it transfers it to the Valley 4 Depot, as you see on the top right hand corner, which is our automation core automatically. One thing to note is that it does need electricity from the automation core, and we use that. We got the power by connecting our automation core using the power cable, right? So I'm going to show you. We use the power cable to power our electric relay or electric pylon here. Now, once it's powered, we can place the electric pylon in the vicinity of the electric mining rig. See how it's in the same box, kind of like works like the automation core. Once it's in the vicinity of the electric relay station, the electric mining rig will get power. And that's basically how we started off with the ore deposit. Now that would happen with the same other ore, it's just that it's in a whole different area. But you would basically do the same thing. You would get an electric relay station or electric pylon, and you would plug in the automation core to the electric pylon and daisy chain that all the way to give power to electric mining rig, and then the electric mining rig will deposit the ore automatically into the automation core. And then we start the process. And then once it gets into the automation core, it goes through the process that I explained earlier by going through these conveyor belts into the refining unit, and then from the refining unit to the gearing unit, and then from the gearing unit back to the automation core. And as you can see in our automation core, we have a lot of the materials because they're automatically going into our stash. Now, what makes this fun is that it's a mini game. Basically, you place these conveyor belts and the fitting units in any scenario you want, because you can go into top-down view and you can move these devices however you like. See, you can move them up and down. I'm just going to put it back though. And you can also take the conveyor belt and you can place it in here and then move it to where you want to go, where you want the items to go. And it will try to take as many of those items and start moving it in the conveyor belt as it sees fit. So the ones that you're seeing that's huge with these huge factories is because they just built it over time, and over that time it just got a lot more complex, a lot more things were going on. There's crafting other stuff, and from what I've seen online is that a lot of the gear is going to be crafted this way, especially a lot of the higher gear. You're going to need a lot more components, and you're going to need a lot more stations, and you know, maybe more power to actually develop the gear that you need. So what did you think? Did you think that this is something that you can Had fun playing? Do you think this is the type of game for you? Let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.